The unemployment rate for young Americans is up. The underemployment rate is even higher. We're going to talk about what is happening to all these entry-level workers, what they should do about it, and how entrepreneurship might play a role today on Builders Live. Hey, I'm Chris Wick. I'm the co-founder and publisher of Technically, the news organization for the community of technologists and entrepreneurs. The latest numbers from the New York Fed put the unemployment rate of those with a computer science degree who are age 25 or younger at 8%. The underemployment rate is twice that. We're seeing it across degrees. There's a lot of conversation about what's happening to young people, entry-level workers. Is it AI? Is it otherwise? We have some data that I want to get into. We also want to talk about what you should be doing if you are a young person, if you're an ecosystem builder supporting young people in their economy today on Builders Live. To do that, I'm joined by my co-host, Victor Hwang of Right to Start, Rae'Mah Henderson, startup investor. Rae'Mah, Victor, thanks for being here.
Hello, great to see you, Chris.
Great to see you. Rae'Mah is somehow spinning right now. Perfectly timed, Rae'Mah. So I will end up starting with Victor, no surprise. But Victor, I was throwing some numbers at you. We technically were working on a few pieces, navigating some of that. I was going to start with Rae'Mah, but she's spinning, so I'm going to go to you, Victor. Give me the moment in time we are, Victor, because correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like the conversation people are having around economic opportunity for young people right now isn't good. Give me a vibe check, and I'll go to Rae'Mah for her own vibe check. And how about this? You can do that vibe check through the lens of our classic, what's a bright light you've seen recently in ecosystem building? Put it through the lens of young people and their experience in the economy today. What's your bright light in ecosystem building, and how does it relate to young people's journey through it?
Well, entrepreneurship is more popular amongst the younger set than any other generation right now. The younger people they're more used to doing side hustles. They're more used to thinking that anyone can do it on their own. They don't necessarily have to go through an established route. And so that entrepreneurial spirit is very strong. At Right to Start, we've got a poll that's coming out shortly in the next few weeks, which will have some information about young people and their desire to start businesses. And they're very entrepreneurial. However, they think young people are just as pessimistic about entrepreneurial conditions as the rest of society. So even though they're doing it, they don't think the conditions are any better. So that's there. And the bright light is, as tied to all that, is to be entrepreneurial. The state of Nevada, as part of our America the Entrepreneurial Celebration for America's 250th year, has launched Nevada the Entrepreneurial, with the governor doing 52 stories of entrepreneurship in Nevada over the next 52 weeks. And so the governor has done a video himself about it. And so we're celebrating Nevada the Entrepreneurial right now. It's the coolest thing. We're really proud of the state of Nevada. Melissa Savendra, Shaq Cruz, that whole team has been involved in helping bring this to life. So thanks to them, and thanks for the governor for supporting entrepreneurship in Nevada.
Love that. All right, Rae'Mah, because I lost you for a second, I ended up combining my two first questions. So you're going to do the same thing too. Help me out. Give me your bright light in ecosystem building. And if you could, tie it back for me about the vibes of the moment for young people in this economy.
Yeah, okay, so, I have not been hitting the road too much lately, so I'm going to do a little bit of a shameless plug. I'm going to shout out my own city, Birmingham, Alabama, as my bright light. I actually don't think I've done that, so I'm going to use that opportunity. And I think the sentiment for a lot of young people right now in the tech economy is really resilient in the fact that I think a lot of people are refusing to give up their joy. We are deciding to enjoy the chaos and make it our own moment and enjoy the uncertainty of the future. So I think that's probably where I would say most people stand in regards to the younger generation that's graduating and participating or joining the workforce right now.
I will join a bright light. I'm in between visiting the TechNet annual conference. TechNet is the trade association of tech associations, and both the United States and Canada, 100 or so organizations represented. And it is inspiring that a tech association model that has been around for decades, the ecosystem building language, the pro-entrepreneurship language is seeping in there. So I am constantly impressed with how I see this work that would have seen foreign. Victor, obviously, so much of your leadership, I see it continue to seep in. And I was in a session yesterday with, half dozen tech associations talking about real granular work of organizing. Essentially, they're trade lobbies in some sense. They're for established businesses, but they all now talk about how entrepreneurship plays a role and what their relationship is to new firm creation. They may not have all of the lingo, but it's there, man. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that, and I think it will relate to young people. Then there is a very real conversation. I'm an elder millennial. I'm one of these who graduated the Great Recession, and I think there feels like a lot of similar vibes to where we were almost 20 years ago. I can't believe we're here already, but a renegotiation with what our economy is for and for whom it works. So I saw in that room, in that conference, people feeling the pressure of are we attracting and retaining young people to stay here? And it's going to relate to their experience in the economy. All right. So I don't think you challenge my overall notion. We have good polling data that people aren't feeling right. The New York Fed has continued to put out data. They just freshened up the underemployment from February, but they more recently in May looked at the underemployment of those under 25 with a college degree. And this is the outcomes by degree. And a few things that I first I did a social video about this a year ago, and it was one of the most viewed I ever hit. Because for the first time, computer engineering and computer science had a higher unemployment rate than things like philosophy, which are much lower down. Now, underemployment rate's a little bit different. But what I got interested in is what's happening. You and I both know the big narrative at the barbecues this summer are all about AI. That's not quite right. It's not what we're seeing in the data yet. What is happening is we're still in a macroeconomic environment that follows on from the pandemic. That's still what's in the data. Firms are just not hiring or firing people a lot. That story from a couple years ago is still true. So what has happened is we've graduated college degree holders into an economy that isn't hiring many people, period. Some of the AI is mostly bluster right now. It's not really the adoption that's shifting it. One reason that the unemployment rate for young people has climbed has been more tied to labor force participation. I just did an interview last week with an economist that one reason we've seen youth unemployment rise, we have more diverse college degree holders that are coming from backgrounds that aren't letting them sit out a year, which is what we saw more of 20 years ago during the Great Recession. Fewer of those young people are going to grad school. They're trying to get right into work. So the labor force participation, how many young people are trying to get a job, has grown as a share of that generation right at the time when no one's hiring. So if it's you or your cousin or your niece, your neighbor or whatever who's struggling to get work, that's real. So I do want to start there, Victor and Rae'Mah, of first, we're entering a school year. We've got people who are underemployed. What's your advice right now if you're at the barbecue and you're talking to someone who's 23 and can't get a darn work, can't get a job? What's your advice at the moment? What should they be doing if they're maybe got the barista job or they're delivering Uber Eats or they're getting some part-time work right now? What is your advice to the young people of America, Rae'Mah Henderson, your peers and younger? What should you be telling them to be doing with their time?
You know, it's so crazy. You're right. I do feel like there's a lot of employers that are holding pose right now. I know I had some technical difficulties where you're like frozen in the moment. That's where a lot of employers are right now.
Yes.
But you know, what I'll have to say about what I'd say to kids right now is just like, by God's perfect design, it doesn't probably take too much to sustain yourself. You're probably anywhere from 90 to 150 pounds. Go explore. Like, go be a volunteer. Go like make memories. Like, there is so much that, and I know I'm not the oldest thing, but you know, I do feel 98,000 years old. I would go back and tell myself, like, go join a Peace Corps. There was a girl when I was a freshman who went and joined the Peace Corps. I was like, dang, that's so dope. And when you're in a liminal place like how society is right now, I think it is a time where you create. So whatever the dreams that you have been too scared to pursue because you've been busy in class, well, now is the time. That's what I'd say.
Victor, what do you got? What are you saying at the barbecue?
I love that. Although I'm offended you wouldn't consider me part of the younger set, Chris. But
you are part of the younger set.
I'd double down on what Rae'Mah's saying about being young and just exploring and going out and doing stuff. If I could do my 20s all over again, I would just strap on a backpack and travel the world, because it's not just fun. And you will find a way. You'll work restaurants and bars, and you'll find ways to make money. You'll scrape by. But you will see the world through eyes in a whole different way. And you will see the opportunities that you will grab the rest of your life. So much of the work I do now is because I did a lot of travel back in those days. And I just saw things, and you see differences, and you see opportunities that they're just not obvious to 99.9% of the people. The other thing I think for young people is the entrepreneurial skills are universal. It's what's made human beings so successful over the years, which is the ability to problem solve, to find problems, to find solutions, and then to bring them to life. I think a big problem of our educational system is that we separate the thinking and the doing. That is, you learn a bunch of stuff, but most people in schooling don't learn how to make things happen in real life. And so this is what you do when you're young, when you finish school, is to actually figure out, all right, how do you apply that to the world and actually make things happen, create value, make change. And that is a skill that you learn your whole life and you never stop learning. And so get to it. I mean, don't sit there and be content with just clocking in and clocking out to a job. Go out and do stuff and make it happen, because you learn through that process, and it becomes this addictive journey where you actually get a lot of charge out of doing it over and over again.
One of the big misnomers around recessions or just economic uncertainty, periods of economic uncertainty, is we tell a story that more people start companies, but historically that's not been true. That consistently, before these last handful of years, we started companies during economic boom times, and we saw rates of entrepreneurship decline during economic periods. And when we have the story, Airbnb and Uber started in a pandemic. Those are notable stories because they're exceptions. They're uncommon, not representative of what most commonly happens. And it makes sense. If you are in a period of uncertainty, it's difficult to climb your way out of it. One phrase that has emerged in the literature over the last 20 years has been the idea of a necessity entrepreneur. That, looking back, that's what I was. Me and a friend were graduated into a Great Recession. We couldn't get work. We were badly struggling. I was doing plumbing jobs, and we started what became technically just because couldn't get work. It wasn't a confident jump into entrepreneurship. We had no background. We were desperately scared, and we didn't know how to make rent. So I feel intimately aware and probably traumatized by that relationship to that moment in entrepreneurship. I would both try to speak to the world, look at my lion's roar, I am starting as something, but I was terribly, terribly scared behind the scenes and at home. And there was this tension that I can remember vividly feeling between those things. So I've been diving into a lot of the necessity entrepreneurship research that Gen Z is going through now. We are seeing rates of entrepreneurship, as we've talked about a ton in this program. Entrepreneurship rates are wildly up, and that does include high propensity businesses, those that are most likely to do employment, but it's also a category of necessity entrepreneurs, people who are now forming that LLC to do gig work, piece it together, and they're not seeing people often make their way through to greater gains. So I want to turn more to those in school now. Perhaps let's take let's talk about a 16-year-old you might know, have in the back of your head, who's thinking about the college path or not. Let's talk about the 22-year-old who's starting their senior year next month. Just talk to me a little bit about what coursework should they be doing. What are you going to college? If some 16-year-old is coming to you about saying right now, am I going to college or not? Give me some of your advice about what you're saying to that person as you look at this economy that sits in front of us. Maybe Victor, I'm going to you. You this is a very real thing for you. Like, what's that conversation like for the 16-year-old you might be talking to?
Well, I've always loved the model of the T-shaped career, and I don't know if you guys have heard that, but the T-shape is the vertical, and the T is being an expert in something, being a domain expert, have your skill set. That is what you do, whether it's coding or writing or designing or something. Something's what you do, which is that vertical bar. The horizontal bar is the broad-based knowledge of interdisciplinary thinking, which is how do you think across skills, and then the skill of how do you actually bring it to life and how do you apply things in the world, which is the softer skills. So I'd say both. You need the T-shaped career, which is what is your domain, what's your shtick, your hard subject matter expertise, and then what's your ability to work across disciplines, so you're not just a narrow cog. And I think that top crossbar is the entrepreneurial skills are part of that, which is how do you problem solve and bring things to life. And so the things that I think kids should take, learn your skill, become a craftsperson, but also learn design thinking, problem solving, financial skills that you can apply, mechanical skills to prototype. Those types of things are invaluable. And one thing I was going to add to your question about, or your point about necessity and necessity entrepreneurship, there was a study that just got formalized. I don't know if you saw this. Anmol Bhandari, University of Minnesota, called a study called On the Nature of Entrepreneurship. It came out of the National Bureau of Economic Research work. And they find that people that actually started businesses earn higher incomes over their lifetime, working out to $134,000 a year versus $79,000 a year. That is, entrepreneurship pays off over your lifetime. It may not pay off in the short run because it's tough and you're struggling and you're building something, but over a lifetime, it's a lot of difference. People that have that entrepreneurial skills that are actually jumping into it, they earn way more over their lifetimes than people that just sit passively and clock in and clock out.
I think I found it, but no, I don't think I've seen this.
Yeah, there it is right there. Yep.
Okay. Thank you for
that. It's a huge difference between people that start and people that don't.
Rae'Mah, I might have lost you there for a second. So what I was getting there, what I'm getting at or curious out of, like, what are you saying to that 16-year-old now who comes, let's say your cousin, who's like, Rae'Mah, I'm not sure about this whole college thing. The backdrop here that I'll pull into the piece I'm filing is, in 2015, for older Gen Z or some of the youngest millennial, the college wage premium was still real high. Like it was like just getting to college just made sense. On the whole, that's still true. We're still watching college wage premium, still on the whole. But there's like a lot of mess in that data. Like, of course, the kids who get to college tend to already be coming from different backgrounds. But by almost all account, college wage premium still holds. It's just been shrinking now for years, both because of rising cost of college education. It's because a higher share of Americans have a college degree, so that separation is shrinking, and the kind of work that's shifting. Rae'Mah's spinning for me now, so I can't actually.
She's gone off to explore the world, Chris.
Exactly. Rae'Mah took the advice that Victor gave, and she said, "You know what? I'm going to go out and explore." Like Victor said.
Yeah, we lost her. She's out there being Gen Z. She's living her best life.
Classic. Rae'Mah, I was asking, like, what's your advice to someone who's questioning the college opportunity? The 16-year-old, knowing the college wage premium is shrinking, it's still there. What's your advice to someone who's weighing college or not?
Oh God, this is bad. And it's crazy because I don't know if you guys know, I actually didn't complete college, have yet to.
Yeah, well, I think you're a great exact voice for this.
It's so crazy. If I had someone who's really dedicated on, like, they've already gotten really crystal clear on what they wanted to do, I think college has never felt right for me because I didn't resonate fully with the major. And then they came out with an entrepreneurship major. And then I got a job, and that took me off to do things. I'm like, well, I just actually want to go be an entrepreneur now. I would probably definitely implore them to maybe just explore. There is certain levels of exposure that college gave me that maybe entering the workforce directly wouldn't have given me. But I do think the kids coming out nowadays, maybe it's because they have never experienced life without an iPad. I am a pre-iPad baby. They are coming out a lot more capable. And so I think if somebody really resonates with wanting to enter the workforce, I actually wouldn't deter them, especially in this AI period and age. If they wanted to go, and maybe especially depending on what they wanted to do, I definitely would I think now that I'm getting older, the woo-woo is like, get crystal clear on what your desires are. I tell all my younger cousins, like, if you want to have a cute wife, well, then you need to make some money. So you need to go ahead and researching what salary will help you do those things. So I think it's all about whatever their desires are, and then reverse engineer from that.
Victor, thanks for that. Victor, let's go to your the T framework again, because I maybe I do remember that somewhat fuzzily, and I'm trying to put myself in those shoes. I'm trying to think about what I would tell a 16-year-old now. I remember my father trying to have a conversation with me about student debt. And looking back, I think he did everything that a father could do. But if I'm being honest, I don't think I got it. Like, I don't think I really understood it. So I had a dad who was willing to like try to get me to get it. I had that privilege, and I still didn't totally get it because I was a 16-year-old. I just didn't really understand debt. I had a rough sense of what I might go do. I wanted to be in a city. I don't think I necessarily had language for why. I thought they were neat. And I wanted to go to a big school because I think I did have a handle that there was just like a lot of stuff. And that's probably the package I had at 16 of what I was realistically gonna do. And then I went down the system and I went into college, and it worked out great for me. That big school did let me find some stuff I didn't even know. I didn't even know what journalism was really. I had no exposure to it. I met a bunch of fabulous people. I found a city I loved. But it's hard for me to like ever say to a 16-year-old, you should take a $150,000 bet on maybe something happening. I know how privileged that sounds. But I'm looking at the data, and it is true that it's still a good bet if you want to be there. So I'm thinking of your T framework, Victor, that logic of you're trying to say, like, if you roughly think the deep part that you're most into tracks in advanced learning, you should go there. But can you say more about the T square, that T framework that you'd be walking that 16-year-old me who doesn't really understand what debt means, doesn't really know what college is about? How are you helping me make the right decision if I should dive into this path or another one?
Well, Chris, you were probably the first teenager to not listen to their parents. So you think you're breaking your ground on that one. Look,
my dad tried so hard, Victor. He really was trying. I couldn't get it.
Yeah. Well, actually, a good lesson is what my own father did to me. Because when I went to college, I got very interested in government, and I wanted to study government. And he said, I don't know what you do with a government degree, but he said, I'd like you to study some computer science. And so he actually made me study some computer science, which ended up taking 80% of my time because computer science classes are a bear. But I ended up with a hard skill that I never became a computer scientist, but I think and then I became a lawyer later, and that is also a hard skill. And what I think I found is that hard skill gives you a way a discipline of thinking that you don't get if you're a generalist. And but then I studied more broadly and studied government and thought about these bigger philosophical questions at the same time. And I think that is an interesting model. My dad had that feeling because he was an immigrant who basically came out of poverty. And so for him, like, you need a skill that people will pay for, like a hard skill. But then what I found interesting is that people who just have that skill hit a ceiling in life and they just become a cog. And that you really need that skill and the ability to cross into different disciplines and apply that skill and communicate it and explain it and bring other people along. And that becomes a huge part of the value of skills. And so that's that T shape, right? What do you have that's your discipline? And then how do you actually talk about it, share it, think about it, bring yourself into different worlds, go into different models of thinking, and then it becomes more useful to others, to the world.
Rae'Mah.
Actually, if I could tie in on that, you made me think of something, and I'm sorry, guys. I was surviving in the heat with the hot Wi-Fi, so I apologize if my former thoughts were super eloquent. But what you were saying, Victor, actually reminds me that I think what we do need to be having the conversation with children. If I could talk to 16-year-old Chris, I would just try to prepare you that you're going to evolve several times. There's just going to be several identities that you are going to live. There's going to be several evolutions. I wish I could have met Victor Hwang, 30,000 years ago. I'm joking. No ageist jokes. I'm sorry, Victor. You look great. But to see who you become now. And I wish I could see all the layers of like what it took to develop, where both of you guys, even myself, I think of myself at 16, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I think my path, I think I would tell, a 16-year-old kid, your path ultimately does find you if you are adherent to whatever internal voice, internal nudges. So I just wanted to add on to your wisdom, Victor.
Well, let me push on this harder, because the safe space for the commencement address right now, or for the barbecue chat with the young person, is what we've all said, which is like general knowledge. The other like classic is, people need people. So whatever is going to happen in technology, an ability to want to work with people or help people or manage people or talk to people, those are skills that in some form will get you somewhere. That feels relatively safe. Know how to work with people. Great. But you said something interesting, Victor, which is you got pushed in a hard skill. And I think a lot of interviews I've done in my journalism career have some semblance of that, of what I liked what you said, Victor, about like some kind of framework. Oh, mine is, I got a kind of hard skill training around journalism at some point. And now like it colors all my other work. I'm forever like bound by that framework. And if you're a lawyer, or an accountant, or a computer scientist, or an industrial engineer, whatever, those are all like a kind of framework that you get introduced to. That's like the deep T that I presume then whatever you learn, you have this kind of framework. I feel like right now there are people who will listen to this or read this who will challenge it. Feels like a lot of those seem under threat. So I guess I'm curious, Victor, would you give different advice to that 16-year-old that was interested in pursuing any of those frameworks, or maybe not? Like, does anything change about, I want to study computer science, I want to study law, I want to study it. Has any of that changed with the threat of AI? And I will pull up some data and some graphics about what is true and what is not. But would any of the AI threats change your advice about what hard skills to pursue and spend money pursuing?
I mean, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, AI was sort of a old person's area of research. It was generally, it was it's been through a few waves of hype and failure. And,
For sure.
there are people doing AI going back in the 50s, and there was a 70s, and there was another wave in the 80s. And so the point is, you just don't know. Like, just because something's hot now doesn't mean you got to pursue something you don't want to pursue. I think knowledge shifts so quickly. The ability is to learn and adapt. So you want to learn how to learn. And so that discipline, like the law, right? The law, just let's say in the last few years has been totally upended. A lot of Supreme Court precedents have been upended. But you still have, a lawyer still has the basic foundation of how is law created? How do you apply law? How does the system work to create law and apply law? And whatever the law may be, you know how to think, and you know how to use that skill as the world changes. So I think I've always felt, don't get too caught up in the hype in the moment. Unemployment may be 8%, but that still leaves 92% of people that are finding stuff. The hype is really on, it tends to be more it's not everybody that gets their lives upended. I think most people are still figuring out a way. And then what's going to happen is people that know coding will find ways to adapt and apply coding into a new world that's happening. And AI is creating a whole different type of coding. And in fact, they found, I think, that people with more coding experience are even more useful in the AI world because they know how to manage multiple projects, right? The people that are good at it are worth even more than they were before. So it's not a uniform blanket, and I've seen the world go through enough fads and phases and trends, and every 5 years, 10 years, there's whole new revolutions that happen. And if you plan your entire next 70 years off of what's happened in the last 5 years, I guess I'd question that. I think learn how to think and learn how to learn, and then roll with the punches and just dive into it.
And I think some colleges and universities would argue they think they are still committed to and good at that, thinking about how to think, how to learn, which I do think I did get that as part of an undergraduate experience. I also think I was highly motivated. I think it hit me, and it worked for me in a way that understandably it might not for everyone. Couple things I want to throw at us. I think you said something also interesting, Victor, that these are different timelines. The 16-year-old, the 22-year-old, 24-year-old, the 50-year-old who's going through a career change. Those are all, different timelines, and what information you need are different things. So two things I want to point out. First, I did a piece a couple years ago. I always remember in education theory, there's a concept of alignment that turns out that if a middle schooler has any job in their mind, they're more likely to perform better over their career than if they don't. Meaning, if you want to be a marine biologist, even if you never return to marine biology ever again, if as a middle schooler you have any image of a job, that puts you on a great track. And it's the research that underpins the idea of like career days are actually really excellent things, just like letting kids see that there are paths is itself an outcome. And that speaks to some of what you said, Victor, that some of the guidance for young people is like, just know what the options are because they're going to change. But if you're just aware of how things work, which is what apprenticeships and, shadowing and mentorship, this is all great stuff. So I guess I'm just trying to call out here that one guidance is exposure is deeply important, and how you find ways. I am a big believer in most ecosystems around the country, tech, startup, entrepreneurial, just good at events. I think events are a wonderful tool for economic mobility. Free or at least relatively low cost events that you let people get to just meet other people and be exposed is so important. So I think that's one standard advice I always have of if you're young or just going through a career change at any age, go out to the world as much as possible and be exposed. Let me turn to the OpenAI's chief economist released a report a couple months ago, about a month ago, that's been resurfaced. And there's a framework that I think could be relevant here. That I like this, and this might be more for our 22-year-old. But they did their last analysis using some of the LM usage, and this is maybe an overly complicated framework, but basically 46% of jobs they feel are not within immediate change in the American economy. So about half of American jobs, they don't see really that many tasks are meaningfully going to change. They, in their analysis, say about 1 in 10 of those jobs they expect to grow, that the number of jobs AI tools will influence and mean even more jobs. About 1 in 4, 24%, AI will meaningfully reorganize. It'll change how the work goes. I think journalism ends up in that category as an example. And they put about 1 in 5, 18%, that they viewed as real risk at the total shrinking. The call center operator gets put in this category a bunch. That category seems really at risk. I imagine, Victor and Rae'Mah, that maybe it's worth paying attention to the jobs that seem people are predicting them to go away, that we've gotten that wrong before. But the rest of the numbers is madness, and you should pursue what interests you. But I wanted to ask you, like, when you see these AI reports, what tasks are automatable or not, do you put any stock in it? Do you pay attention? Is it just noise and marketing to you? Do you care when you see McKinsey or OpenAI or Anthropic predicting what tasks are automatable, or does it feel like hype to you? Victor?
There's this old paradox in economics called Jevons paradox. I don't know if you've heard of this before.
Love Jevons paradox.
Jevons paradox. All right. The lower the cost of the input into something, it actually doesn't kill an industry the way everyone thinks it's going to. It actually expands the industry. And so originally that was around coal, and coal, the cost of coal going down, which led to more engines getting created, which led to the industrial revolution. But one recent example, I think it was the cost of video production. So everyone is essentially a movie studio on their phone. And did it kill people's video consumption as a market? No, it may have upended parts of Hollywood. It may have upended the studio system, but it certainly has only made us more consumers of video with lots more choices. Like video's everywhere now. So the cost of production changes things. AI is, I think, doing the same thing, which is the cost of creating a lot of things, including starting businesses, is going down, which means the market's actually probably going to get bigger. There's just going to be more stuff going on. Now, is there going to be disruption? Sure. A lot of people's lives are going to get hit and people are going to have to adjust. That's going to definitely happen. But the market as a whole is going to get bigger, which means the reward's going to go to people that are able to adapt to the new stuff. Like if you used a giant Hollywood camera before, you had to learn how to use iPhone editing now, right? Like that's just how the industry shifts. And that's what's going to happen too with AI. A lot of the things that you had to build before that were hard are going to be built a lot differently and faster and cheaper.
Can we? You sparked. I only got a few more minutes left with you. I'd love to get you guys to touch on the jobs market. I did a piece years ago now, like old man ranting at that single click jobs platforms, LinkedIn, Indeed, were ruining the jobs experience because the easier it is to apply, you apply to more jobs. So employers put more barriers, and when there's more barriers, you have to apply to more jobs, and you kind of get this arms race, which we see in the data. You can pull data and see that the number of jobs that people have to apply for has grown, and young people are hit by this. Of course, the cover letter story is a big one. If you're talking to that person of any age, but perhaps young person, who's like, man, I can't get any work, I got to get work. What's your advice on the job hunt right now?
You're talking to me?
Sure, either of you. I'm curious. I'm sure someone said to you, like, man, I can't get work. I've been out of work for a year. What am I supposed to be doing?
Well, Rae'Mah's 30,000 years younger than me. Go, Rae'Mah.
Yeah, Rae'Mah. Yeah. What are you saying to that person who's coming over in Birmingham and is like, I can't get work, man. I've been out of work for a year. What do I do?
I've been hearing a lot of creative things. I heard about somebody sending in some donuts with their resume attached. I'd probably be doing crazy stuff like that. I'd probably be made some yard signs with my resume on it at this point. I think I just hold life to like a hilarious degree, but I would just say don't subscribe to fear. Whatever it is, find your avant-garde way of going about it, whether that's going to a networking event, if it's joining an AI meetup with all the tech bros. Like, I think a lot of times it just comes down to putting yourself in the room. Always be selling. Always be selling. I'm always selling myself, even if the joke is bad. But by the way, Victor, I hope you know I love you. And I'm 60,000 years old myself. So.
We're all old souls here.
Yeah.
Rae'Mah, let me stay with you for a sec, because I'll make this like one of my last questions and could get me at this story. So that's the job seeker side. Talk to me about the ecosystem builder, the economic developer, like the local organizer. Yeah, like, maybe there's a jobs fair, but there ain't that many jobs anyway. What's other work that you as a local organizer, what do we want ecosystem builders and economic developers doing in this weird moment for young workers or maybe aspiring entrepreneurs? Like, what's your advice for this moment to help them?
To help the economic developers?
Yeah, what should they be doing? What are you doing in Alabama that you think others should recreate?
Yeah, this one is a really tough question. I've just been trying to spend more time with young folks. I'm actually like on a list to go volunteer with some of the foster kids around here, like as much as I can, to participate with amplifying giving them the ammunition of whatever wisdom I have. Whether I have no idea how it'll suit the job market, but I do know that there are certain keys that maybe that will apply to life overall. And the thing is, I don't have the answers. I really don't know what I could recommend economic development to do, but I would just say be in the room and be in community and figure it out with each other.
Victor, what do you got for either the job seeker or those the right to start states? What should they be doing, thinking about their young people?
Yeah, well, I think the usual way they're taught is to, fill out resumes, apply to jobs, go to interviews. And I recently saw this job for a hard tech company that they said the only people they want to apply are people that have been like hardcore hobbyists in the maker world, like they make stuff. And I thought, see, that's exactly the thing, is like, they're not looking for people that went to school and just got grades and applied for the job and did a good interview. They're looking for people that are hardcore passionate into something, right? High key passionate, as Gen Z would say. Like, they're people really into this stuff. And so I think that's the thing, is like, think of your career as a bank shot, right? Like, go and do stuff that you just love and you're awesome at, and you were just, you're killing it. And then people want to hire you. Like, that's what people want to hire, is they want to hire someone that just loves doing that stuff. That's who I want to hire when I'm looking for someone that already loves it, not just someone that checks a bunch of boxes on the resume. And so you do that through the bank shot, by going out and doing stuff in the world that is really makes you more knowledgeable and more passionate and gives you networks and lets you learn how to do stuff. So get out in the world and do stuff, and use that to apply for a job.
Brilliant. No notes. Well, no, I was going to say, Victor, I'm trying to, because you know what, like you were saying earlier, Chris, Gen Z is known to be like aspirationally entrepreneurial, and and we tie it a lot to gig work. But I think a lot of times we just have a very creative generation, and then Gen Alpha is coming. That's why they all want to be influencers. People have it's going to be a new renaissance. I truly believe it. Shout out to Victor, because if they see this advice, it'll really come true.
So that's what I want. I want you guys to help make it aspirational, because I think that's, I feel like the moment we are in, and what I hope the story can be. Thanks for bearing with me on this. This was one of our more meandering episodes. So thank you for bearing with me as I try to find the angle in the story, because I think we're at a hinge point now where when we cite Gen Z as entrepreneurial, it's typically one of a handful of surveys that show aspirationally. But in actions, the data a little different, because there's a lot of economic vulnerability. And despite what we want to believe, the economic vulnerability does not lead to mass entrepreneurship. It typically is folks get stuck. It's just hard. It's just the rare exceptions that break out, not the overall story. So I think the message for the economic developers and the ecosystem people is like, you have to recognize that vulnerability and help and support those that can. I'm going to lose you guys here in a sec. Are there any final parting shots for the young people? We can clip it for social. What's your message? They're about to start school next month. They're terrified. They hate AI. They hate the data centers. They're feeling anxious. Victor, what do you got for them?
Well, I will say, kids graduating 35 years ago, which would have been me, 33 years ago would have been me. We were told the technology was coming at us like a rush. The world was uncertain. There was geopolitical instability. Technology was going to take away our jobs. Automation was going to ruin everything. Other countries were going to compete and beat the US. I mean, it was the same thing. And I'm just saying, it all comes around. Like, don't get too caught up in the hype of the narrative of how awful everything is and how disastrous everything is. People find a way. Human beings are very resilient. We've been through this stuff before, and countless generations have been through this stuff always. And so we find a way. Gen Z, I love Gen Z because they're actually really similar to Gen X in many ways, which is they've learned to dance through the storm. And I actually love TikTok culture. It's so funny. It's just a riot. Like, it's like one of the few things that makes you laugh in the world is just watching the funniest, dumbest TikToks. And after you watch it, like, wow, I just wasted a few minutes, but man, that was funny. And you do that. And that's like this generation, which is great. They've learned to laugh through the hard stuff. And I just love that. And that's what it takes. You just got to have that resilience and fight through it.
Raymond, parting shot?
Yeah, I would just say, like, we're in a liminal place, and one thing I've come to learn about liminality, I actually got to speak with the liminality philosopher a couple months ago, is that you'll build the most beautiful memories, most treasured memories when you reflect back on, like, when your life is in this in-between, this weird in-between space. And so I would just say, continue to enjoy your chaos, and hold on, guys. Universal basic income is almost here. We are almost there. By the time you're grown, we'll all be getting a check. So that's what Oh my gosh. Did I do all of that on mute?
No, we had you. I just lost you at the very last second.
Oh. Yeah, let's say just hold on, guys.
So the
Our
robot's
UPI
going to take
check's
care
on
of
the
us.
way.
Yeah, the robot's going
Yes.
to take care of us. Just hold on. Yeah. I can't wait. And say please when you type in AI.
I do. I call her Pookie and everything. We have a relationship because when the day comes, she's not killing me. We're locked in.
We badly need building, and there is always a market for the best of something. And so I think whenever we can find a way to be the best in something, there's opportunity. There's an AI fight that we are rightly having, but man, for young people, do I want to remember that I am doing as much coverage of AI being used in dementia research and roboticists addressing people with difficult disabilities. There is so much building to be done that solves meaningful, important, life-saving problems and opportunities. And I want people focused on the biggest challenges, which is what I believe entrepreneurship is, and what I believe is a journey through entrepreneurship. So remain a tinkerer, focus on what you're passionate about, and you'll get somewhere. And we're going to get on the other side. Rae'Mah, Victor, you're going to say something, Rae'Mah?
Tinker.
No? Oh, no. Yeah, tinker on. Yeah.
Tinker on.
Tinker
That's
on.
Tinker on is the message from this week's Builders Live. Victor, Rae'Mah, as always, thanks for the journey. We'll see you next time.